So it's definitely fall here. We're 6B, 7A, and already having cool nights. We've had a couple of nights in the upper 30s. Days are still really, really nice. You know, fall weather's here, but we have a couple things that need to happen in the garden. So first, I actually still have some tomatoes that are fruiting a little bit, so I'm gonna leave those in as long as I can. Had a bed of sweet potatoes that did absolutely nothing. The deer I have to thank for that. Got a new bed down here that's got just buckwheat that I seeded in it. And so this time last year, none of this was here. And these two beds here that you can see, raised beds that I grew garlic in last year, hadn't even built either one of those. So that's kind of where we are. I put in beds. I didn't have time to make them all raised out of the cedar, and so I did a bunch just with logs on the ground. Again, I put in some new beds down here that I just seeded with some buckwheat earlier, I don't know, about a month ago, just to have something growing in the soil. You can see I've cleared. I'm in the process of building perimeter fence, keep the deer out, and I think this is also an armadillo, if I'm being honest. I've seen a couple of armadillos through here. Pepper plants. This is this is an Egyptian walking onion that's split out. So things that need to be done in the garden. Split my Egyptian walking onions and replant them. Clear out vegetation. The tomatoes and things I might leave a little bit longer, but the garlic ultimately is going to go in this bed, I think. My two raised beds that had garlic in them last year and multiplying onions and things need to be topped up with soil or compost. You can see they've dropped quite a bit. And then I have two asparagus beds. There's sin plants there, and then that long bed right here has, I think, 25 plants in it. That's purple asparagus. This is regular green asparagus. And so this bed only probably has 6 inches, maybe less, 4 inches of soil. Those have about the same. So I need to bring them up so that they are protected over the winter. I gardened in pots some this year. A lot of these pots I had potatoes in when we were at our rent house, and then they got moved over here. You can see there's one I clearly missed when I harvested out of this bucket. It's coming back up. Really had a lot of deer pressure on anything I planted in these. You can see even this big orange tub is a tub of tropical. This is turmeric, galangal, and ginger, and you can see the deer even enjoyed munching on these. Elderberry bush down in there. I've got a couple of figs, a pepper plant I've overwintered. This is, well, hopefully if I can do it I've overwintered it 3 times, 3 winters so far. So anyway, I did some growing in pots and then growing in raised beds as well, hoping over the winter to add some beds. If you look right up here, this is a true yam, Dioscorea alata, I believe, that I got a big chunk of root from family down south, and I'm not sure how well it will like this weather. I mean, it grew, clearly, but I don't know how much of a root it made or will make, or did it just consume the root that was there. So we'll see, but lots of work to be done, really in anticipation of planting garlic. So right here in the orange pots, this is kind of the beginnings of my fruit orchard. A lot of the grapes did not grow well. I'm gonna have to contact the nursery about that, but my 2 apple trees did pretty well. Anyway, you can see along the line here, I'm putting posts in. I'll talk about the way I'm doing a fence this year. It is by no means permanent or particularly good quality. It's more just to get something in the ground. You know, 50% chance I'll decide that I want to move it a little bit. So all I'm doing basically is digging a hole and setting the post in the ground. I'm not treating the posts. These are just wood posts that I've pulled off of my property here. And so you can see it goes up that way. So they will rot off for sure. I'm not worried about that. I plan to replace this either in the same place, in which case all I have to do is pull this post out and put a better post in and set it, or I may have to move it. So I'm happy knowing that, or content rather, knowing that the my posts are not going to survive and will eventually rot out. I'm going to kind of continue along that direction, past to the right of this big tree, and then that's kind of the one edge of my garden. I've been coming out here every so often and just digging some posts because it's not easy work. The ground is real rocky. All right, I'm going to start down here. The weeds are going to come out. I do have some, they're actually native violets that I just let come back up. They just came back on their own. Found my trimmer, so where I can, I'm just going to cut these things off at the ground and leave the roots in. And then it's going to get, it's going to be piled up with more dirt. The stuff that I want to pull out to search underground, like the sweet potatoes, I'm going to leave for the second. They're starting to bloom again. These are the tomatoes, but it's just not worth it. In a couple of weeks, we're going to start work on our shop. And so I'll be focused on that. And so I really would like to get the garden squared away. These were late summer squash that I threw in just to see if they do something, and I think I got one squash. Here's a okra that never did anything. There's a bean. I had a bunch of stuff that the deer pressure was crazy. Finding a single sweet potato would be so fun. Well, that's not true. I found one. It's about that long. There's I doubt that I'm gonna, well, there's a sweet potato root that I can identify as actually coming from sweet potato. I'm seeing some evidence of fungal networks, but there's no sweet potato there. Hey, look! It's the best sweet potato so far, besides my pinky. It's a fingerling sweet potato. Alright, well, you know, that was fun. There's another bed over here that might have something, but I doubt it. There's walking onions. I try to divide them and replant them. So this was one big bulb earlier this summer, and I left it. And the stalk produced those little bulbils at the top that can be planted. And you see it's dividing. So I'm going to attempt come down here, see how it divided out, which is really cool. So if I'm gentle to save, I guess I need to save some of the roots in there. I think that's called the basal plate. And let's see if I can, here's some. Let's see here, do I try to split this one? Why not? Yeah, it worked. All right, so they almost look like green onions at this point. I guess you could use them as such. I've cut the tops before. Let's see if I can split this one. We use the tops for green onions. You can eat the bulbs like regular onions. And this one was big. Well, big. It was 2.5 inches. 2 inches in diameter. All right, but then from that, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I can replant here shortly. See that paper comes off. Again, split them to keep some root on. I mean, I'm not an expert on this. That's just what we gather. That's what I would try to do. There we go. Root. There we go. So that was another. There's like a row of these right here. Let's see what this is. Oh, I know what these were. These were, I had taken some of the little bulbils that come from the top and pushed them down. That's what these were. So it's good. That's not it. So they started growing. Yeah, you can even see the remains of that bulbil right there. See my milk jugs that I reuse? What I've got here is some municipal food waste compost mixed with some peat moss. And that's what's going on here across my beds. I have a bunch of this like sandy dirt I'm gonna throw in here. Add some good minerals and stuff to go with the peat moss. Incorporate that a little bit, it'll be fine. This is one of the beds that I created when we had the skid steer on site that I just took topsoil that I was clearing and threw it in here between two logs. This one's relatively level. That one and that one are actually on a slope. So there's only a log on the downhill portion of each. And I just threw in buckwheat, which has been up for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. We're gonna have a winter, you know, frost next week, so it'll kill it, so I'm not worried about that. I did just seed in some radish. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna come over here and I'm gonna bring some old leaf mulch and throw, you know, a ½ inch or something over the top. Not enough to keep the radish from coming up, I don't think, but enough to probably trample some of the buckwheat and they'll just become green manure in place. And then a little bit of ground cover for the winter for it. But other than that, this bed's not going to get any sort of really amendments right now. I think these beds will be sweet potatoes or something like that in the spring, but I haven't decided. So this is what I'm working with. My work last fall picking up bags of old leaves really paid off. Look at that mycelium in those compacted leaves, which is just perfect. And that's what I want. Hopefully we're gonna have a rain here in the next 24 hours. Make sure this stuff doesn't just dry out and blow away. Don't think this is going to be too thick for the radish to come up. Not everything looks as good as that, as you can see. But that's okay. Still have some long bads that haven't broken down, and I'll just push those into the corner and they'll break down eventually. And you can see it's not all, some of the buckwheat will come through, and that's fine. That's good.